Hi, I'm Gillian, and welcome to the show. I offer spiritual growth for the rebel soul, guiding you through the labyrinth of your own ascension path. This show is for the rebel souls that challenge the status quo, those that crave authenticity in every single aspect of their lives, that desire to embrace their uniqueness, follow their passions, connect to their soul, and live according to who they truly are, even if that means having the courage to go against the grain or the norms of society. If that's you, my spiritual soul seeker, rebel warrior, then this is the place for you. On this podcast, we speak about everything from spirituality, sexuality, conscious relationships, business, and literally everything in between. So if that's your jam, then stay tuned. And go on, be a rebel and subscribe. You know you want to. Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm very excited to do this episode because we have Steve Nobel here. So Steve Nobel is a spiritual healer and mentor. He is the author of 6 non-fiction books and the creator of Soul Matrix Healing. And if you haven't heard of Steve's meditations in the spiritual world, then firstly, where have you been? Because Steve has 190,000 subscribers on YouTube alone for his amazing meditations and transmissions. He's got 50,000 subscribers on Insight Timer and God knows how many, in your own network with Soul Matrix Healing. And the reason that I'm so excited to have Steve here because he was actually one of the first spiritual mentors that I ever explored when I went through a big awakening in 2012. And I found him online and I found his meditations, and they were just so transformational. And, you've been in this world and you've been online for such a long time. But I think I would like to know, and, I'm sure my viewers would love to know, what was the catalyst for your own spiritual awakening and ultimately, what led you down this path?
Well, I think I was a kind of spiritual child, and I was in a family that was not spiritual and not interested. And, as a kid, I could explore. I was really interested in all these lovely graphic comics and superhero and sci-fi. When I was a kid, there was loads of them out. I
Mhm.
could read. There was Doctor Who, which I loved, and then Star Trek, and so I could do all that. And my parents probably thought, well, that's what kids do. It's all right. We'll leave them alone. But as a teenager, they started to get more worried
Yeah.
because I became into yoga when it wasn't fashionable.
Hmm.
I got into macrobiotics, which really freaked my parents out. Eating, that yin yang kind of way of
Hmm.
eating. And I was quite extreme in it. So while they were eating their Sunday roast, I was having my buckwheat and, and something else. So they were like, oh God. I started exploring spiritual organizations at the age of 15.
Wow.
I started attending. I went to the Theosophical Society, College of Psychic Studies. I went to all of these older kind of places. I wrote to one or two authors. There was a big author in the 70s called Lobsang Rampa. I wrote to him. He wrote a number of books back then about Tibet and the spirituality of Tibet. And basically, I got nowhere. I got a lot of dead ends thinking, and even got told, come back when you're 21. You're too young. Got
Mm.
told a few times.
Hmm.
So I thought, well, let's try and be normal.
Hmm.
And I went into a normal job. I married a normal woman.
Hmm.
I had 2 normal children.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife was always having one eye on me because she knew that I was a little bit weird. She knew it because when I met her, I was macrobiotic, but I gave it up because she insisted I become normal. So I tried it for a number of years. Then in 1991, there was a trigger that happened. My father died and I woke up again. It was like a magical waking up. I don't know why a spell broke. It wasn't that I had an easy relationship with my father. It was difficult. And
Hmm.
it's almost like his death broke a spell, and I could then be free to explore again. I was 33, I think, at the time, 91, I think it was. And then I started exploring, and I found within 6 months everything that was going to be meaningful for the next 20 years. Teachers, crystal books, amazing. It was just an amazing period. And I always suspected the universe was magical. And in that 6 months, it was like the universe is magical. It's not this dull, 3D, boring place. There is a magic behind it
Hmm.
or within it. So then I jumped in, which meant my marriage dissolved within a year or so because she was not going to tolerate my weird stuff.
Hmm.
My children were then 9 and 13, so it wasn't easy. But then I spent the next, I don't know how many years, from 1991, diving into everything. I dived every which way: shamanism, Wicca, metaphysics, crystal healing, all kinds of healing systems. I was looking for things that worked, basically.
Hmm.
I wasn't necessarily looking for a one teacher or one path, but I wanted to know, well, and I think a lot of people ask this question, how do I know this stuff is real?
Hmm.
You know, and I had to answer it for myself. Well, I feel it's real. I feel these magical doors, but I need to step through the doors and find out. And I did step through a lot of these doors and I did find out. I followed one teacher for 9 years or so. She really woke me up.
Yeah, well.
And then, so I had this kind of magical awakening, exploration. I resigned from my regular job in the kind of
Hmm.
corporate world.
Yeah, been there.
I followed the rainbow
Yeah.
and went, I heard about a book, Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow. It was an old book in the 90s, I think. But now I would say the title should be Do What You Love and the Money Will Eventually Follow.
Oh my God, so true.
It doesn't follow immediately, but it kind of, these kind of promises, really.
Yeah.
I think a lot of books and a lot of teachers do promise things, which they shouldn't really.
Mm.
Um, there are things about the spiritual path that aren't really known, and I think probably not spoken about because it might put people off because it's magical, but also challenging. There are challenges on the path. It's not super, it's not like you start walking up that mounting path, you have a higher view of your life, but there are also new challenges that you didn't meet in the regular world.
Yep.
And some of these challenges are more energetic that you have to work out, well, what is this all about? What's this challenge? Where's the source of it? And
Hmm.
there start to come challenges which don't originate from this lifetime. Most of our challenges are conditioning, family conditioning,
Yep.
parents wagging their finger. But when we start on the path, there's ancestral patterns get triggered.
Yep.
There's other lifetime patterns get triggered. And unless we know what they are, it's like, where's this come from? What is this all about?
Hmm.
And so I had to get really savvy very quickly because a lot was being triggered. So
Hmm.
I started studying Akashic Records clearing systems because a lot of it I realized was not of this lifetime.
Yep.
And I still continue that journey to this day, really. But so then what happened was I became a director of a spiritual organization hosting authors, and I met a lot of lovely people there. And it was a big family for a long time. But then approaching 2012, I felt another shift going on, and I felt almost like my soul was pulling me away from this beloved family, this beloved work, and even my then new partner of, well, 12 years we were together. And I didn't want to go. I'm like, hey, I found a home. I'm not going. I'm staying. And my resistance created a kind of internal explosion that was a dark night of the soul resulted.
Yep.
2010 through to 2012, and it didn't come out to 2016.
Yeah.
That was several years of extreme, difficult, dark energies. And I never believed in dark forces or dark energies. I mean, I know there are challenging energies, but I didn't believe in dark forces.
Hmm.
And that Dark Night of the Soul was like my Hogwarts dark arts training, where I'm like, oh, there are dark forces and they don't mean me well,
Hmm.
and that was important because my work after I came out of the Dark Night has been around the light and dark and about clearing interference. And not everyone likes it because, and some people comment. Recently I had some comments. It's all in your head, Steve. These dark forces don't exist. I had one person comment, one person emailing me, it's all in your head. You shouldn't, it's all about your shadow. And, I'm really like, no, you don't understand the shadow and dark forces. They're two different things. They
Hmm.
are connected, but they're not the same.
Hmm.
And so I emailed her back saying, well, you could say that dark forces are in my head, but then would I say to you that light forces are in your head? How do you know that
Hmm.
there are light forces? Because people go, oh, they're light forces. I experience them. I know them. I can sense them. I feel the vibration. But when it comes to dark forces, a lot of people go, no, 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 no. That's not true.
Hmm.
Because it takes a certain maturity to actually go, there's light and there's beauty and there's higher dimensions and there's also darkness and lower dimensions.
There's a
And
duality.
you need to be aware of it because if you walk in the path and you don't know, if you step off that path, you could fall a long way. You need to know, I
Mm-hmm.
just think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Everything that you say just resonates with me and my journey so insanely. So, yes, I'm so glad that you brought all of that up because it's true. And I was actually going to ask you, you've been online for such a long time. How do you deal with the negative comments? How do you deal with the internet trolls? Because having such a big platform, which now I've grown massively in the last little while, you get them and you get them from perceived other healers or spiritual people. And I'm like, why are you writing negative comments on someone's page? It's just wild to me. How do you navigate that and not let that affect you or that energy hook into you?
Well, I think for anyone on this kind of path, you have to kind of your ego has to be kind of at a point where you're not moved by or not moved so much by either praise or criticism because
Yeah.
they're both the two faces of the same coin. We love you. I mean, it's lovely when I see people say, "We love you, we love you, we love you." I take it as more feedback that the work is working for them.
Yeah.
I know they don't love me personally. It's like, well, they may feel something. I don't know.
Maybe they
Um,
do.
Maybe they do. Well, I've had probably about 12 people say you're my twin flame, and I'm like, well, get in the queue because there's 11 other people just told me that, and I don't really,
I
I
love
think it's all
that.
just a projection, really.
Of course. Yeah.
But so, and when then people say ne so-called negative things, when I look at it and I go, well, actually, some comments are useful to hear because they might say something useful, like,
Mhm.
that track, the music was too loud, or something useful. I go, okay, feedback.
Feedback.
We all must take on feedback.
Yeah.
But when people are just attacking for the sake of attacking, or if they've been triggered in some way, they just think, well, I'm triggered, and so I'm just going to lash out. Then there's a delete button, which I use now. I don't mind. I go, well, you know what?
Well,
There was some recent posts. I don't know if you read, but with the Pope's passing, I put out some posts.
oh, I haven't seen it.
Oh,
Oh, that would have
and
caused ruckus.
wow, it caused so much. I had to unfriend probably a dozen people, which is good because they need to know. And hey, if you're not on board, because basically, um, I think with an organization like the Church, the Vatican, for example,
Mhm.
is a very typical 3D organization. If there's any Catholics watching this, this is a
Sorry.
warning coming up.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't worry. You're in the right place here to judge.
So the last pope, the previous one to this last one we've had, was clearly not liked, and the bad cop and negative PR. The church realized, hey, negative PR, we got to do something. We got
Hmm.
to create some positive PR. So they brought in this guy,
Hmm.
and he, you think everything he says sounds good, and everything he does sounds good. But what I've said to people is a dark 3D organization, as dark as the Vatican, would not allow a light being to be its leader. You've
Hmm.
got to understand that. I
Hmm.
don't know personally what Pope Francis is up to, but I don't care. But I know the organization as a system, it will not allow anyone of a higher vibration. It would just be too much of a mismatch. So
Hmm.
you can have someone saying all the right things, but the vibration has to be matched to that organization.
This is where
And
learning to read energy over words in this day and age is so vital.
yeah, my first post about the Pope was I put a picture of him stepping through a golden gate, and I just said, I think he's got some explaining to do on the other side. And oh my God, the backlash was amazing. But I kind of did delete a number of people. I thought, I don't take it personally. People are not able to see yet that there are systems in this world which are not really aligned with the higher vibrational parts.
100%. We talk about religion, education, like I've delved into hundreds of past lives from my clients and, huge blocks that we see, right, that are impacting people, especially on their spiritual path or their psychic development or their healing path, are come from religious programming, come from educational systems, come from anything that seems to thwart individuality or expression. So big
Yeah. Well,
organization, say less.
we're moving out of Pisces now. We're moving into Aquarius. I do believe, I mean, I have some astrologers saying, how do you know? But it's obvious. Just look around what's going on. We're entering the digital age. That's not a Piscean thing, it's an Aquarian thing.
Hmm.
And I think that we're releasing the last 2,000 years, which is religious programming,
Hmm.
all of it.
Yep.
Persecution,
Yep.
obedience to some church or religious organization, bowing down, vows, poverty, silence, all of that,
Yep.
all of that stuff. We have to ditch all of it. And we are at this point of entering, we can't go into Aquarius and this new age. It's not just Aquarius, there's a whole other bigger calendar, galactic calendar opening up now. It's a very important time. We can't carry all that old baggage into this new age. We have
Right.
to ditch it. So if anyone is still beholden to the Pope or the church and going, yeah, I'm doing my weekend Reiki and I'm going to mass on a Sunday, you can do it for a while, but there's going to be a certain point where you're going to choose which way you're going to go. You
Mm.
can't serve. You
Hmm.
can't serve a 3D organization and your higher self, really. Higher
Yeah.
self doesn't care about the church.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
that's just my point, my feeling anyway.
No, and it's great, and it's so true. It's like this that really embodies the work that I do as well, because it's like you have to look at the duality of the world, of the energies, of everything that's in it. And we've had all this programming again passed down the ancestral line with our past lives that are still really imprinted on the collective consciousness and on ourselves. Like I see it in my work every single day. So, I
Yeah,
I resonate highly with this. And I mean, it's not just, really looking at clearing out the ancestral patterning or clearing out the past life programming that, you're really known for. You're also really known for talking about starseeds and ascension and, and really supporting, let's say, the light workers to, I guess, come into their own power, come into their own gifts, right? And because we need
yeah,
it right now and supporting. And again, same with my work. So how would you, for my listeners out there, how would you define what a starseed is? And maybe what are some signs can someone look out for to know, like, if they are one?
yeah. Well, first I have to say that I never believed in starseeds. I
Mm,
never believed in ascension. I heard teachers talking about it,
yeah.
and I'd read books, a couple of books here and there. I think what was it? There's some books, old books, about starseeds, and I'd heard one or two speakers talking about Ascension 2012. I thought, oh, you know what? I don't really. I was more into the practical stuff. I was more into manifestation and
Mhm.
connecting with higher forces. I didn't know if it really worked. But when I went to the dark night and then I came out, I was able to connect the dots backwards because actually, for 8 years, I had no connection to my higher self, no connection to guides, no connection to anything, no guidance. It was a
Wow.
really difficult time.
Yep.
And then I woke up one morning and I had a voice. This was the first time I'd heard a guide speak to me,
Mm.
and said, "You've got to teach now about ascension and star seeds." And I was like,
Oh,
I was really happy to hear the voice after all 8 years, a long time with nothing.
wild. Yeah.
But I didn't really want to be teaching about ascension and star seeds. I'm like, I had to sit with it about, really? Is that what I want to be doing? I
Mhm.
meditated for 2 weeks going, am I going to do this? It's going to make me much weirder than I was before. My children already think I'm weird. What
Yeah.
are they going to think now? Actually, I'll tell you what my children do think now. It's quite funny, really. After 2 weeks meditating, I thought, you know what? I just have to say yes. I just thought resistance is not the way. I'll just say yes. So I organized the workshop about starseeds. I didn't really think I knew. I'd done a lot of metaphysical work. I'd done work with a lot of interdimensional guides, but I thought, do I know a lot about starseeds? Anyway, I did this workshop, and people apparently were raving at the end of it. And I was thinking, really, they're raving? I had the organizer come up to me, said they want more, Steve.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, oh, okay, let's do it. And so I started doing these regular Monday events and workshops and stuff. And so it was a kind of fast learning curve about, well, what are they? Who are they? I guess I must be one if I've been told to teach about it. So, I mean, now further down the path, I've been 8 years doing it now. I've got a bit more of an idea, actually, and also of my own origins and what's been going on. It's taken a while. And now I regularly connect with a number of groups daily, actually, higher self, and then there's a number of starseed groups I connect with, Andromedan,
Mhm.
Arcturian, uh, Lyran.
Mhm.
Actually, they've been coming stronger more recently.
Yeah.
Um, Pleiadian,
Mhm.
um, Orion, but the Orion's a bit tricky, but there are positive groups around Orion.
Mhm.
Um, anything else? I usually miss some. Have I
What about the
missed?
What about the Mintuckans, if that's how you pronounce it? Because
Mintaka,
I've had
yeah,
come through.
I don't know if I have a personal connection to there, but
Hmm.
I feel the film Valerian is a little bit like Mintaka. You know that? Have you seen Valerian?
No, I know what it looks like, but I haven't seen it.
There's a beautiful opening scene of this water planet. It's quite a beautiful. From what I understand, Mintaka got destroyed in Galactic War, and that's another aspect of Starseeds around Galactic War. That
Hmm.
there's religious program which is earthly, but there is Galactic War which touches a lot of Starseeds.
Yeah.
So a Starseed is, but to understand. Actually, I had a brother-in-law who's a very 3D person at a gathering. Sit down. He's done kind of, he's very academic. He sat down and said, "So what's all this Starseed stuff about, Steve?" Arms crossed, and I'm like.
No, no,
I
you're
thought, his energy is never going to get it anyway. So I just said to him, well, you've got to understand, to understand Starseeds, you have to understand, you have to step back and go, there's another basic assumption, which is the soul is multidimensional.
hmm
And he said, I don't even believe that. So I said, well, let's stop there then. So if the soul is multidimensional, which means the soul can incarnate in different planes of existence,
hmm
this is just one plane of existence. And actually, the Earth plane, this is just one Earth plane. There is more than one Earth plane. There's possibly several Earth planes that we can go into, or more maybe, actually. I don't know all of them, but there are different ones.
Yep.
There are different planetary systems, different dimensions. And so we're here. Starseeds are here for a reason, and that's to help the planet ascend and shift in consciousness because it's been rather stuck for a long, long time.
hmm
And so it needs starseeds to come in and give it a little kick. Come on, everyone,
Sprinkle the magic.
or a little love, stardust or whatever.
Yeah.
So starseeds have been in many dimensions. Their energy is naturally more connected to higher dimensions.
hmm
Whereas people have been stuck rather on the earth plane for a long time, their energy's much more vibrating with the last however many thousands of years they've been here.
hmm
And so, if you sit opposite opposite an earth seed, or someone's been here for a long time, and of course they may also have long, long time ago have other incarnations elsewhere, but they've just forgotten about it. It's
hmm
almost like they've been in jail for too long. It's like, well, we don't know what's out there anymore. If you say, angels, they'll look at you like we should call the medical
Yeah.
team. I
That's the
remember my
trolls that
mother
are
once.
online. Those are the ones that
Yeah.
are killing you.
My mother once overheard me on a conversation on the phone, and I mentioned angels. She looked at me with a glare as if,
Really?
what am I losing my mind? Anyway. So if you met, there was a guy I used to live in a spiritual community, and he said, what's all this starseed stuff? He's very Buddhist and open. I lent him a book. I knew the response. He gave it me back and he just said, it's all crazy, isn't it? I said, it is crazy, but I think that's the way it is. And
Mm-hmm.
he went away scratching his head. So you can get a lot of people who are kind of spiritual, but not starseeds. They may be in all kinds of spiritual places, but they may not be starseeds. After a while, you can tell by their resonance. You can look in their eyes and know. You can just look in. I mean, I can look at you and go, "Wow, hey, hello." We, I don't have to worry about you. There's something about the eyes being the windows of the soul, right?
So true. Yeah.
There's a shamanic teacher down here where I live. I met her once, and I'm like, "Your eyes are not from this planet."
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't tell her that, but and then she told me recently, I'm into the shamanic and also the metaphysical, also the higher. So I didn't know that, but I could read it from her energy. There was a woman in the early days following me in the workshops. She said to me, she was sitting on the couch. She was Eastern European, blonde Eastern European, arms crossed, going, "So you are the guy doing the Starseed stuff. What is it all about?" But I looked at her and I thought, "You are one." So I told her, and she became a devotee for like years. She followed me all the workshops. So you can tell. It's a bit like going to a party and someone says, "What do you do?" Some people go, "You know what? I'm just a coach. I've written some books. I'm not telling you." But
Mm-hmm.
other people, you can be completely open. It's kind of energy. Energy doesn't lie, does it really?
Doesn't. It doesn't. You just have to
So
get good
some
at
of
doing it,
yeah,
have
some
that
of the
always work that
signs,
internal compass, but a lot of people have shut that compass off.
yeah. The signs would be someone who's into spirituality more than religion, someone who's into futuristic thinking more than being obsessed about the past,
Mm-hmm.
someone who likes alternative lifestyles, someone who cares about the planet. Often are very. There's a lot of young people caring about the planet who are actually starseeds, hugging trees and saving trees that care about the planet. There are starseeds who are very innovative and forward thinking in their, you know. So, for example, someone like Elon Musk, who I think is a bit of a confused starseed. I don't quite know if he knows which side he's on really,
I feel
because
that.
it's not like everyone out there is all love and light. There are different races, and I think when I look at him, he's like, you clearly have got a starseed mentality, but are you using it for the light? Totally. I'm not sure if he is really.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things he's come out with is kind of amazing, but some of the things like, you're very mixed character. And of course, there can be some very mixed starseeds. People like Tesla, Nikolai Tesla, clearly one, very innovative, just dreaming things in his mind. Einstein dreaming of the theory of relativity. There's lots of musicians, John Lennon, very, very forward thinking for his time. Let's not have war anymore. Can you
Mm-hmm.
imagine the Earth with no religion? These are very, very forward thinking ideas. There are other musicians as well. David Bowie, there's a starman waiting in the sky.
Yes.
There are all kinds of starseed. Music was a great way they could come in,
Yeah.
but now there's more avenues. So if you're drawn to this channel, listening to Gillian, then I imagine that you've already gone native. You're a bit weird, and you've gone somewhere already.
You've definitely gone if you're following me, that's for sure.
Unless you're a follower of Jesus. I mean, I love Jesus the Avatar, but there are a lot of people, posting "We love Jesus" from a very religious 3D point of view, following.
Mhm.
They're kind of trying to convert us back into as if
Mhm.
we've forgotten something.
Yeah.
But
Because the energy of Jesus, ultimately the ascended master energy, that's an
yeah,
all-loving, unconditional. It's not anything to do with religion. So,
I think all original masters of light have their origins in other planes of existence.
yeah.
Jesus, the Avatar, is an avatar. Buddha is another avatar of this planet. They are not from this plane, and they've come to. I think Jesus, for example, came to plant a seed of light in the Western world, as Buddha came to plant the seed of light in the Eastern world. And there have been other masters. Krishna was another master. There are
Mhm.
master souls that come in, but religion is like these kind of these layers that kind of go around it, misunderstanding, trying to control it.
Mhm.
Christianity is ideal, that if you think of the original message of Jesus the Avatar and what Christianity's done over the last 2,000 years, it's quite shocking.
Mhm.
The amount of wars and torture and inquisitions.
Mhm.
Where's that in his message? I don't read that anywhere.
There is
We've
none.
got to torture people who don't believe what we believe. I don't think he
Yeah.
said any of that stuff.
No, absolutely not. So with
And
those,
also in Aramaic, there's no word for hell in Aramaic. There's
oh,
no
really?
word for it.
Yeah.
No. If there was no word in the language, where does it come in Christianity? He would never have spoken of hell,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
It's just all fear based. It's fear and control. That's like that's how do you control the masses? How do you get people to not be a free thinker, not to, do their own thing and be happy and, raise the vibration of themselves and the world is to have fear and control. Like, hello.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a lot of karma, I think, with churches, and
I think you
unfortunately,
have.
I've had to undo it. Yeah, clearly. I worked in a basement of a church for nearly 20 years, in the spiritual organization, and they called us the heretics in the basement.
Oh, really?
And
There you
and I
go.
thought that's kind of a funny term because I did feel I was a heretic in the basement.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And then with all these star seeds and the light workers, like you said, they're not just healers or psychics. They're in technology. They're in the future of banking. They're really here in so many different ways in the world. What do you think
Yeah.
like their role or their place is in the future of the planet, the future of our evolution? What is the role that they're here to play?
Some are here to break down old systems. That's their role. Whistleblowers.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like Edward Snowden. When I look at his energy, the guy looks like an angel. I'm looking at his energy. I think you're an angel. You've got an angelic energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, has been demonized because of what he did. But there are other star seeds who've come in with a mission to innovate, create, shift systems, build new systems. So the banking system. When I was in banking for 10 years, my first job actually, in
Mm-hmm.
the reptilian banking system of London. And now the banking system is so radically different. There's so many new platforms and
Absolutely.
changes, that
Yep.
back in my day, it was very different.
Mm-hmm.
And in science, I mean, Aquarius is an age of technology, and we're going to see a rapid advancement of new technologies. The challenge is for those technologies and starseeds, of course, is to align all of them with the planet, not with 3D science. It's been harming the planet. But there'll be a big clearing up of, excuse me, my throat.
We're
A
clearing
big clearing
stuff
up.
here.
Yeah. There's going to be, because the 3D world has kind of wreaked a lot of harm on the planet. So there'll be a lot of cleaning it up.
Yeah.
Microplastics.
Yeah.
There'll be a shift with the John Lennon thing about the end of war. Can you imagine a planet without war? That is where we're heading, a planet without war. It's going to take a few decades because, in a way, war has to rev up before it can go. Because really, to enter this age of peace, we have to get rid of all these weapons and armies. It's such a waste of our resources. So there'll be starseeds in there talking about that. There may be contact further down the line. We're talking a bit further down the line, decades down the line, with other dimensional races, inner Earth races, and off-planet races. But that's probably, 40 years away at least, I would imagine. The planet has to shift in vibration before that can even happen. I mean, those races are in connection with a number of people on the planet, but not as a collect. The collective's not ready for it. They'll freak out. It's a bit like the day the Earth stood still. If a spaceship landed in Central Park, there'll be tanks surrounding it. They're not going to welcome them with open arms. But of course, governments have been in contact with various races for a while.
Yeah.
But they're not all positive. But that will shift as the vibration shifts. That will have to shift, actually. And also, we're seeing in political systems, lots of shifts. I mean, someone like Donald Trump, for example, who's a disruptor of, A1 disruptor, isn't he? Come in to disrupt. He's an angel of disruption.
Yes.
But we need, up to a certain point, disruption and chaos for something new to take place. Although there's a
fine line.
There's a fine line of how much disruption the planet will take
before
it throws him out.
How much Trump will take? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people. I mean, I know ardent Trump supporters. I've got friends who have been ardent Trump supporters. They think he's the next Jesus Christ, and I'm like, I don't think he is, but he has come with a job to do. But let's hope he stays in control of the job and not be taken over by his ego, because he clearly has a big ego.
The duality. There we go. The duality of the mission and the human existence, right?
Yeah. It's fools go where angels fear to tread. And that, the higher forces will use someone with quite a dense ego, because you need you can't go in there sensitive, because he's clearly not a sensitive type, is he? He's kind of like quite, he's quite armored up, and he can go in and he seems to like going in with, shields up and everything.
Like the drama. Yeah.
But, let's hope it settles down after we've had 100 days of, is it 100 days of his being in presidency, and it's shaken up the world quite a bit.
Yeah.
But systems need to be shaken up.
Yeah.
But, I'm hoping that transition will be smoother. It doesn't need to be chaotic and so difficult. And we don't need to enter the Aquarius having a World War III. We don't need that. It's not necessary. We're already seeing a lot of the stuff in Revelations coming out, all the thing around plagues. We've had the global lockdown, war. Clearly, there's wars, some
fire,
floods. Yeah, and Gaia herself is also shaking loose a lot of stuff. A lot of in the last 20, 30 years, what's been going on in the planet has been Gaia purging through storms, floods, fires. Some of it has been aided by dark forces because they have technologies which can aid that.
Absolutely.
But a lot of it is also Gaia purging. So,
seeding is huge here. Like the amount that tuning into the seeding in Australia, it's big. The cloud seeding.
Yeah. So you've got some dark forces in Australia that's come out the woodwork in the last few years.
Absolutely.
And America has.
Floods.
Yeah. And what they've been doing. I think the global lockdown was very interesting in that it showed to a lot of people, or it should have showed to a lot of people, that the world is not what you thought it was.
Absolutely.
That there are forces in the world that will do things and have agendas, which is not what you think they will do. And I think that was a big moment in time of a lot of people waking up. 9/11 was another moment, and the global lockdown, these two big moments of suddenly the curtains parted and you could see dark magicians behind the curtains. It's a
Mhm.
bit like the Wizard of Oz. Take no notice of the guy behind the curtain. The little dog was pulling the curtain, and they say ignore the guy behind the curtain. There are these beings behind the curtain, but they can't hide anymore
Yep.
because the vibration is shifting, and it's very hard for them to hide in the shadows anymore.
Yeah.
That's the good news. That's the good news.
And how, like, when we're talking about ascension and the vibration of the earth shifting and us shifting, how does that happen? How can someone shift into a higher vibration, and how does that then impact the collective consciousness, like from your perspective?
So Gaia herself is already shifting without the help of Starseed. She's doing her own thing. She's decided, hey, the human resonance is going crazy and all of that. So Gaia is shifting. But the thing is, Gaia could shift, but the human community needs to shift also.
Mm-hmm.
And if the human community doesn't shift, you can have a planet in ascension where, it has to be started all over again type of thing. And we don't want that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So starseeds are here, boots on the ground, and the starseeds open up and wake up. A number of triggers wake them up, meditation, an event,
Love.
trauma. There's all kinds of things wake them up. And so they are kind of beaming collectively this new vibration out in the human collective. And so for people, if you're a starseed, it's not like you will wake up, whether by hook or by crook. You'll wake up through meditation, a spiritual teacher, a book, a YouTube meditate something, or you'll wake up through a slap.
Mm-hmm.
Your health will go, or your someone will die, or something will happen, and then you go, and the shock of it will wake you up.
Yep.
So it's the carrot or stick effect.
Yep.
Either will wake, and some people will wake up by the carrot. Oh, that meditation was so lovely. I went on retreat in Bali, and now I'm feeling the vibe. And some people go, no, I don't get that. They need the little whack, and they
You
go,
got
oh.
slapped with a stick multiple times, I think, Steve.
Yeah.
Not listening.
And most of us wake up with a combination of both, don't we? The carrot and the stick.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I know for myself, I needed a bit of both. I needed the love and light, and I needed the death of my father, and
Yeah.
and also my marriage breaking down, which was difficult,
Yeah.
and all of that. And now, by the way, I mentioned earlier my children, particularly my son knows what I'm up to, but he doesn't really talk about it. He's a bit like, "Oh, Dad, what are you up to?" But my daughter goes, "Dad, what is all this starseed stuff? Tell me." And then she'll burst into laughter if I even try to attempt to tell her. And I've got four granddaughters now, and they were kind of open, and they're kind of open and semi. We have to see what happens with them. They're kind of open into crystals, but
Okay.
I'm not quite sure.
Starseeds, you think, or you don't know?
Maybe it's hard
Okay.
to tell, really. Hard to
Yeah.
tell at that stage. There's signs, but there's not completely.
Yeah.
Um, the younger ones, the two younger ones seem to be stronger. The older ones, but they're teenagers. It's hard to tell in the teenage years because they're in the throes of everything.
Yeah.
But they were certainly into crystals and get me some crystals. And so even my ex-wife now wants me to get crystals. So she puts in
You know what?
orders.
Slowly, slowly catchy monkey. Everyone in their own time and their own journey, right? It's like
Yeah,
the ripple effect. If they wanted to come on the journey, sweet, amazing. If they don't, that's okay.
yeah. And I love my 3D family. They're a big tribe and they're lovely. There's loads of them, and in a way they keep me anchored to the world. It's nice. And they were much more impressed by getting a blue tick on Instagram than anything else. Hey, Grandad, you got a blue tick on Instagram. That's so cool. I'm like,
It
yeah,
shows
okay.
you that this is the generational divide, right? That we live in right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And with that, like with us the world trying to raise its consciousness and us individually trying to do our own healing work, etc., etc. What are like the biggest energetic blocks that you have seen in people or that are really coming up for the collective right now?
So the blocks come in three, personally, it comes in three different directions.
Mm-hmm.
Family conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
What your parents said, didn't say, how they treated you, the dynamics in the family, all of that has an impact because
Yeah.
we're in the womb and but you get born and we absorb it all, and we have to shake it off.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it may be taken on for a reason. For example, my non-spiritual family, I had to go in there to go, this is what a completely anti-spiritual family feels like, a
Mm-hmm.
working class, and it was important for me to know.
Absolutely.
I could have been born into a hippie family where everything's love and light, and I wouldn't have any idea about the 3D world. I needed to know it right from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to shift that. Then there's ancestral programming,
Mm-hmm.
which can be heavy. In my programming, British, I mean, you have some Scottish there. I've got British,
Yeah.
Scottish. war is a big thing. Colonial empire war, a big thing. I had to shake it loose, a lot of it. I had to do ayahuasca journey, shaking loose war. I mean, it just both my grandparents were in World War One in the trenches, and I somehow got it in my system. This shock and trauma. I had to shake it loose and heal it, and bless them. My grandfathers, what they went through,
Yeah.
and then there's poverty programming on my bloodline, and there was also religious programming. Had to get rid of all of that. But then other lifetime programming comes up. Again, trauma, persecution. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of starseeds have persecution,
They do.
being persecuted for coming out the spiritual closet,
They do.
and therefore they feel scared to come out.
Mm-hmm.
I want to come out, but I'm a bit scared. Usually
Me?
it's, you know, well, if you've been burnt 3 or 4 times as a witch, no wonder you feel a bit scared.
Oh yeah.
So I had one of my first past life memories was spontaneous. I was sitting in the bath reading a book actually, and I had this vision of execution, of being burnt as a witch in
Mhm.
France, and it was in the medieval times, and it was very real. And in the vision, I followed the vision. I was like, oh, where's this come? So I followed it, and it was a woman who was actually burnt but choked to death because
Mm-hmm.
I just felt I was being choked to death with smoke. I researched afterwards, and they said most people actually choked to death. They didn't die from the fire. Not all, but a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, that was an interesting. And so that got me into the witch wound. Is another the whole thing about medicine people, shamans, witches. That wound is very in the collective in Europe, very strong,
Very.
very very strong.
Yep.
And it's starting to be healed now. Witches are coming out the closet. This whole thing of witches are evil. The whole nonsense about witches being evil. They're not evil.
They're
They're
healers.
following an old religion.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
then there's galactic war.
Mm-hmm.
Starseeds, a lot of Starseeds. This is a deeper program because galactic wars have been happening. The Orion Wars, Star Wars is a documentary, not a film. It's a documentary more or less of the Orion Wars. And there'll be other ones, Lyran Wars, the Lyran system wars with darker ET forces. And the Earth plane has had wars, galactic wars here, that a long time ago. And which is why we've got dark forces now, because, in a way, the light forces lost this planet for a while. And so it's coming back now. The planet is becoming light again. So it's shaking loose. Fear of the dark is another one.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big fear of the dark forces.
Mm-hmm.
And even if people deny it, they deny it because there's a hidden fear of it.
Yeah.
And so we have to shake loose all of that. I mean, I remember when I saw the film Alien when I was 16, it terrified me.
Sigourney
I'm like,
Weaver.
oh my God. Because I think there are races which do not look that pleasant
Yeah.
or low vibration that we have to clear out all vibrational connection to, all programming, all imprinting, all trauma with.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, for example, a phobia of spiders, deep phobia.
Don't
I
come to
went and
Philly
saw,
then.
no, I know. Well, I was on the
Or you'll
lookout when I
be,
went there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You'll be fine in
Uh,
Sydney. Don't go
yeah.
up. Yeah.
So I went to a channel and I asked them, and I thought it must be some past life where I was killed by a spider. They said, oh no, you've encountered spider races, another dimension. And I'm like, and that really triggered something. So I did a lot of clearing around that.
Mm-hmm.
That was the real thing of clearing that stuff. So there are layers of density. And the great thing about this lifetime is we have the opportunity now to clear a lot of layers of the onion.
We do.
That's what we're doing, clearing a lot of layers, which is why a lot of starseeds have signed up for hard lifetimes. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people say, why is it so difficult for me then, Steve? If I'm a starseed, why have I got such a difficult lifetime? You chose a lot of challenges to clear, to provoke and activate these old programs to clear them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then life gets easier.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's like this, I've studied like over 11 different modalities, and what I've created now with my healing is those exact channels. Like I've realized through my work that actually those are the key channels that we need to really work on and clear on all levels. So that is really the
Yeah.
basis of a lot of my work. So yeah, I'm glad that there's just so much resonance here, which I love. And
You
with
must be kept busy, Gillian.
that's what we signed up for, isn't it? He's
Yeah.
good. Hi, we've got that. We're working on the high achiever like mentality here, but yeah, it's it's rewarding beyond measure, as you
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
And with such a big, I guess, spiritual output that that you have, how do you clear yourself? How do you clear energy? How do you maintain that balance and status quo when, we're doing this work?
It's a daily thing.
It is.
From the time I get up in the morning, connecting, to the time I go to bed in the dream time, I have to, am I connected? Am I held? Am I held in the light? And there'll be times where, I mean, the thing about, you may get it as well, Gillian, a psychic attack, psychic interference is regular for me. Someone like anybody public is going to get that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some of that attack is easy to bat away, and some of it is very intense. And so, um, I have a protocol which takes a little while to go through, but I'm quite good at going through all the layers of it now, clearing anything trying to attach, any cording, any entities trying to get into space, anything trying to be inserted in my system, tagging devices or any other devices. Any dark crystals, clear them out, please. I call on various groups, psychic surgeons. I did a whole psychic surgery training, light body psychic surgery training. And when I did the training, my eyes opened, like, all that stuff can be in there as well. Wow. So I've kind of can clear out stuff in my system, make sure I'm grounded into the crystalline grid of the earth and the core of the earth, grounded into the crystalline core of the sun. And I called on a lot of archangels to assist. I love the angelic realm. They're very, very good. Violet and ultraviolet fire angels are very good for burning away other load of
Mm-hmm.
crap.
Mm-hmm.
Michael is very good, and the angels work with Michael, very good for protection.
Mm-hmm.
Metatron is also very protective. I like Metatron and Michael, particularly very helpful. And there's a lot of disinformation about Michael and Metatron being spoken. And I think dark forces deliberately put this stuff out because there are false-like beings in the inner worlds, for sure. We have to be careful. But
Mhm.
it's not like the angels themselves are dark. And a lot of people just read stuff and then just believe it. And I'm like, hey, you're disconnecting from some really powerful help. I've
Mm-hmm.
been connecting with these angels for years.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were dark, I would know it. I tell you, I know what dark forces, the touch of them feel like.
Yep.
There's no darkness in these angels, you know.
Yep.
But there are false light beings who pose as your higher self, guides and angels. So just be careful. Like there are, I say to people, imagine you're in a bar. It's particularly relevant for women, maybe, and a guy comes up to you and he looks good, he sounds good, but you know something's off.
The
So you
discernment.
don't go there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's the same. You
Yep.
might see an angel, they look good, they sound good, but you know something's off. Trust it. Something's off. Get rid of them. You
100%.
know?
This is like honestly, I feel like I am such a stickler for this. The daily, like I have created a rebel flow for in my rebel psychic school for my student.
Yeah,
It's like you have to do this every day. The more you open up, the more sensitive you are. It's a non-negotiable for your energy. You're grounding, you're connecting, you're clearing, you're protecting. And then the discernment process. Whenever you're connecting to any kind of being, that could be a false being, right? So you are
yeah,
they connected to divine love, right? Like, and
absolutely.
I've actually stopped saying, are they connected to the light? Because the light for me feels like it's been infiltrated. So divine love is never infiltrated. Love is love, right? So, over my practice over the years, it's been tweaked and twiddled because of, my own experiences. And, I've
Yeah,
become a bit of a Nazi with my students on it. And I'm like, listen, this is foundation. You can't, I'm not teaching you anything else until you get this like down pat. Until you're consistent with this and you're protecting your energy and you can discern correctly, then we'll move on.
yeah. Boundaries are useful. Energetic boundaries are useful. There are a lot of empathic people, the empaths who are very open and loving. Hey, and then narcissists come straight in. Narcissists love an empath.
Mm-hmm.
The empath narcissist thing is because,
My 20.
and yeah, oh, right, okay. I've had a couple. And you learn, like, oh, there are people actually who think like that, who are, well, going to snatch my energy, be an energy vampire.
Yeah.
So it's a big learning curve about boundaries, self-love, self-valuing, and being aware, discernment, and if you've been kissed by a narcissist, which you and me have been kissed by, we go, oh, there, and it's and it's part of the training as well. They
It
come
is
in,
so
and it
fun.
can be very intense. I don't know, yours was intense, mine was very intense.
Yes. It is. It's something a lot of my, again, my clients come through and they're like, they're opening and they're like, hold on, met this person and I felt like so drained the next day. What's happening? I'm like, let me tell you what's going on there with your sexual energy. Yeah, is that was a
Yeah.
massive learning curve for me in my journey for sure.
Well, I think the whole twin flame thing, I put up a track called The Great Twin Flame Delusion. It had a lot of kickback because there's a lot of people that, and there is for sure strong karmic connections between people. But the
Hmm.
twin flame thing has been hooked into and romanticized.
Agreed.
If I find my other half, I'll be complete. And be careful because dark forces will use that in you to get somebody to come in, and they're very charming, these narcissists. They come in, oh, my twin flame, and then wham, you
Hmm.
get, and then they bugger off and they leave you disorientated and like, whoa, what happened there?
And then
I
someone's
mean,
pining for 20 years thinking someone's going to come back. And I'm like, no, be a realist. This is not your twin flame. Like you're stuck in this pattern and it's like it's so unhelpful. So I completely agree. I think I've made some content about this exact thing myself. So yes, I agree with you
yeah.
on that
Well,
one.
the reason I put it out was because I had a client a few years back now. And this client says, my twin flame, I miss my twin flame. And I was, well, when did you meet the twin flame? When I was 17 or 18. She's now like 30 or something. Oh, did you date? Yeah, for 2 weeks. Oh, okay, for 2 weeks. And what happened? Well, he's gone and he's gay now. So he's been gone for years. You dated for 2 weeks and he's gay and you think he's coming back. And this was just like too much. I thought, this is just too much.
Yeah,
Goodness sake.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's when I put it out. How much more do you need evidence in the world to go, he's not coming back?
yep,
And
yep.
so I had a lot of people kick back on that one. No, no, I've met my twin flame. You can meet people who have strong karmic connections for sure.
Hmm.
You don't necessarily need to marry them. You may have
Yep,
had a brilliant marriage in another lifetime, but it doesn't mean you're destined in this lifetime. So you
absolutely.
have to really tune into your heart, really, and go, is my ego just getting pulled, or am I, what's my higher self say about this? Because the higher self may say, no, don't go there.
Yeah.
But if you and a lot of people override it because their ego goes, oh no, I know, maybe that's not
Connection
real. I
so
know.
strong. Yeah, 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 yeah. And you're just getting
Yeah,
into, that sexual energy. And it's like, this is why I think past lives are so helpful when we're dealing with these types of intense, like connections, because a lot of them, like you said, are karmic, they're past lives. And actually, by
yeah,
exploring your past lives, you can actually see the dynamic and see how it's replaying or seeing what's going to happen. And it really puts things into perspective for you. So I've done that
yeah.
many a time, and I'm like, oh, I can see what's happening. I can see what I was meant to learn there. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to tune in because I also feel we can, with every choice we have, oh, my throat's going again. With every choice that we have, we can actually travel down the timeline of the yes, taking the choice, or no, ignoring the choice, and see what the energy feels like. So we
Mhm.
can actually go down the future as well
Yeah.
and see if I accept this person and, into my life, this is what will happen.
Yeah.
And it's worth doing that. But
Mm-hmm.
not to get too, because sometimes we just know we meet someone, there is a real knowing of, this person is on my vibe. This is my person type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a question mark. If there's a question mark, always tune into the question. What is the question mark? Or or because sometimes we may meet someone who's really for us and we have a fear, oh my God, I've been hurt so many times before. So sometimes we might be called by the higher self to go through the fear. So it's kind of very subtle, these things. It
I
takes a bit
agree.
of experience to know, well, is this my fear or am I being warned? And it can't, it's
Yeah.
experience will tell you as you've
Yeah.
been kissed by a narcissist, then you get the experience. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
now
And
I
it's
know.
true, it's this subtle things. Like I teach us again in the Rebel Psychic School. It's like, what's the difference between your intuition, your ego, or desire? Because actually, a lot of people just talk about the intuition and the ego and the fear, but actually, desire has a whole other like tinge to it as well. And I find that, or for my clients anyway, that probably have gone through similar things than I have, it's really
Yeah.
interesting to be able to feel the subtle differences of what those individually look like, especially when we're talking about relationships or twin flames or, the dupes that can happen in the spiritual community, because there really is, especially in, this modern dating life that we are in. We
Flicking
have
left to
the,
right, or there's all this flicking, isn't it? That's
exactly, the non-committals, yeah,
yeah.
and I feel like a lot of the spiritual community almost get preyed on, right? By, like, let's say, fake or false, the narcissist, the et cetera, because, they have that level of energy. So yeah, having a discernment is really important.
Well, part of the ascension process for me is upgrading the ego. Because the
Mm,
ego, we don't destroy the ego, we upgrade it to a much more helpful. And upgrading means the energies of the ego in the lower three chakras gets shifted up in vibration, and we start connected with the heart and higher up. Because the ego operates in the lower three, survival,
mm,
sexual attraction,
mhm.
power or helpless, these kind of dynamics as the ego.
Yeah.
And a lot of resistance comes from our ego because the ego doesn't really want to go down a spiritual path. It doesn't trust it, doesn't like it, doesn't understand it. And
Yeah.
so we have to overcome this. And eventually the ego does relax. I think the
Hmm.
process is ego relaxing. And it relaxes and go, oh, okay, well, maybe it's not so scary. Okay, we can go down there, and then it gets upgraded. And then, okay, maybe there are angels. And I remember my first workshop I went into as a participant. There was a load of people sitting in a circle, and my ego was like, "Oh my God, what are you here? Why are you here? What's all these people talking? This talking stick going around." But eventually my ego relaxed and go, oh, it's okay. We survived the last one. So there's a process of relaxing that goes on, upgrading, because
Yeah.
everything's vibration. The ego is vibration, and it has to be upgraded as well.
And one of the biggest fears that we have as humans, right, is the fear of change, the fear of the unknown. Like, so of course, when we're diving into the realms that are unseen, unknown, of course, all of that programming is going to come up, right?
And the soul, higher self, says, go into the unknown. You need to explore. You need to take your little boat out of the harbor and sail out to sea. And
Yeah.
the ego's going, no, 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 stay in the harbor. It's safe, nice and sunny. We know the people here. But the soul says, no, you have a journey. That's the core tension.
Hmm.
And eventually you have to sail out. And then the ego relaxes and go, oh, okay, maybe this trip's not too bad. And then you find another harbor and new people. And the ego starts relaxing and go, initially there's a lot of resistance.
Absolutely. And that's why so many people stay in that spiritual closet. Like me, for example, I trained in all these modalities. I always knew that I was going to do something with this work, but I had my other business that I owned and it was very successful. And I stayed in that spiritual closet for such a long time, even though I was so unhappy. I was so unhappy with what I'd built, but to the outside world, it was like, oh my God, you've got everything. It's great, seven-figure business, da da da. Da. And I was like, oh, but the universe makes you so uncomfortable. They're like, you gotta move now. You know what you're here to do. And it was frigging terrifying to, like, let go of everything that I'd known, this very successful business that I built, to start again in my spiritual and healing business. And I'm like, I don't even know what this is even gonna look like. And they're like, off you go.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
great journey because then you discover new elements of yourself you didn't know before, or new resources, or multidimensional resources, gifts.
Yeah.
When I started the journey, I never would have thought I'd be doing healing, coaching, webinars,
Yeah.
YouTubing, all these things. I would have, if somebody had said to me, "You're going to write 6 books," when I
Hmm.
was back in the 3D world, you go, "You must be crazy. I'm never going to do that." But
Hmm.
once you start the journey, it activates. You go, "Hey, I could do X, I could do Y, I could run a retreat in Greece, I could do whatever I want."
It
And
does.
you start to realize you're much more resourceful than you thought before.
Absolutely. And it's such a journey. I always say, if you have a business, it is a spiritual journey in itself. Like, I had a 3D business with my recruitment company, and I went through lots of, like, big dark healing elements within those years, and then moving to my sole purpose, right? My purpose-led business, and it's brought up all of these other things on the journey. So it really is, I can't explain it. Like, I mean, obviously you've written books, or like The Spiritual Entrepreneur, for that
Oh
exact
yeah,
reason. She's
yeah.
um, she's a customer. Um, but yeah, it's really is a whole other level of a spiritual journey to actually build a business that is soul aligned, that is a purpose-led business. And it doesn't have to be as a healer, as a psychic, as a spiritual mentor. You could have a soul-led business that is something completely different, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy the entrepreneur. and a number of starseeds are called to, because freedom is a core value in a lot of starseeds, and you don't get a lot of freedom really in the corporate world.
Yeah.
So to start working for yourself is a whole new level of freedom
Yes.
and innovation. I wake up. One of the core fears is around, well, in the corporate world, I could get a salary. I didn't have to think about it. I just turn up. But as an entrepreneur, you're responsible for generating your own abundance, and that could be like eek,
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning. And now it's very exciting. I feel very excited about it, and I realized that in the spiritual world, an idea can generate a whole, one idea can generate. I had one idea to write the book, and that generates a channel of income.
Yeah.
I had an idea to start doing webinars that created an income. Retreats. I'm doing 2 this year in Glastonbury. They're sold out, and that creates a kind of income.
Yep.
Yeah, I go every year to Glastonbury. I have been to America and other places. I think lockdown took a little bit. I might start traveling internationally again. I did a lot of workshops in Bulgaria and Italy for a while, and Ireland, but at the moment I'm just doing Glastonbury locally. So yeah, so I love the path, and I think one of the things, there's a lot of stuff in the book, but one of the things I talk about shifting from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset. It's a big radical shift in thinking. 9 to 5, follow the rules. What are people thinking? It's almost like not breaking the rules, but remaking the rules. You're not doing 9 to 5 anymore. You're not waiting for your salary at the end of. You are the one generating it, and it can be tremendously exciting. And one of the reasons my ex-wife is now very pro Stevie is because she's seen. I don't understand what he's doing, but he seems to be very generous with his grandchildren these days. And
Yeah.
that I am very generous in what and I think they've seen. Well, let's forget about what he's doing. It seems to be working. Let's congratulate him on that. So
Money.
yeah, it's doing money.
Yeah.
And money is an energy that is necessary to navigate in the 3D world, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. Money is just energy. I realized that in banking a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we have to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be okay. And there are a lot of 3D people who are okay with having a high vibration. In the city, traders, they're like very okay with dealing with millions. And when I was working in the city, it was like millions in and out. It was these kind of trades. And it's just energy. And so one of the things I think for entrepreneurs is around getting comfortable with raising your energy in terms of allowing money to flow through your business and through your energy field, and not to restrict it, going, oh, that's too much now. You have to destroy old agreements of poverty. You have to destroy agreements with the Illuminati banking system. Actually, it's another element to it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because the banking system is quite controlled. But when you can destroy agreements in there, and you can start moving in these systems without them controlling you. So actually you can be abundant without, these drainings going on of your money or whatever. There's all kinds of elements to it. I'm very interested in abundance because I think it's one of the core things I've come to heal and to help others heal. So that's something I work on quite a lot of my transmissions around abundance. Psychic protection, abundance. They're kind of 2 main areas I work on a lot.
Yeah.
And you'll find once you start getting in your flow, the flow is such a subtle thing. You're on flow or off. And I really train myself to know in the morning, I'm a bit off flow. I'm not quite. Go and have a walk around the park, jump up and down, have a cup of tea, get back on it. Feel the connection. I feel connected. It's click back in me. And the ideas start coming. I get downloads all the time.
Same.
But there are moments where it's like a bit off, and I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? Get back on it, Steve. So flow is this wonderful term, flow. And when you're in your flow, things start getting, it's not there's no challenges, but there's a kind of, your time stands still. I could spend time, hours, and I forget to eat. I'm like, I'm just so engrossed in what I'm doing. I'm so in it and so excited about it. And that feeling of excitement. And there's also for me a big element, and a lot of entrepreneurs, starseed ones, service. It's not just about me making money. It's about me serving the world in a meaningful way. That when I leave the planet, hey, I'm 67 already. I've got maybe 30 years of doing this work, possibly. But when I leave the planet, I want to know that I'm done. I came to do, and I did what I said I would do. And then I'll feel complete and I can go across the other side going, I'm complete. It's not about having a big bank account. That's not important. The money is just a fuel for the journey, right?
Absolutely. Like the more money you have, and this is a lot of, spiritual people or healers, they have again that poverty consciousness, right? But it's like you said, money is energy. And a lot of healers maybe have blocks around receiving, they've got the ancestral blocks. And it's actually just the more money you have to invest in you, your health, your well-being, your own evolution, working with other mentors, the more that you can give and be of service to the world. And that's like the
Yeah.
mindset shift, right? Especially for spiritual entrepreneurs, I think.
I think so. And at the beginning of any business, if anyone's starting a business, it takes a year or two to really get it. So the first couple of years, you have to be used to tightening your belt.
Hmm.
And actually having a tight belt does make you more resourceful. And the universe, I said to the universe, I'll do this as long as I can pay my rent,
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm.
And for the first year and a half, it was, tricky here and there, but the universe held me. And now, okay, I'm sailing. But
Yeah.
there's always a bit, and the universe will help you. If you tune in, there's always guides and angels will guide you in your business. And they'll give you info. I learned this when I was a director of alternatives. I used to tune into them and go, what do we do now? Who do we get now? How do we connect now? And I always got the answer, hey, there are guides and angels on the other side interested in this work. They're interested in what I'm doing. I'm sure they're interested in what you're doing, and they will guide you. Go that way, don't do that, or wait now, don't do it yet, go now, that kind of thing. A bit
Yeah.
like the Matrix, where he said, Neo, wait, wait, wait. Okay, go now. That kind of thing. As a Neo on the other side, a Morpheus on the other side, helping us.
Yeah, absolutely. And our business has its own consciousness. Like I work with the consciousness of my business, the consciousness of my marketing. I've kind of broken it down, as I work with all of my spirit guides, it's like they are my own spirit guide for channeling what I'm meant to do. So it is, yeah, the more that you open this up, the more that you realize how much support there is. It's almost like you are the CEO of your own business, but then you have like your employees, your team, which is your spirit guides, right? Who are all like, give us a job, we're backing you, we back your vision, and like, let's just make this friggin' happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much of a learning curve on the whole thing. And I remember one day in the early part of my journey, I got a message from the guides. It was in meditation, and the message was, get more professional. And I was like, get more professional. So I hired a sound engineer to teach me audio sound. I got someone to teach me video,
Content.
and I then I started going on YouTube and learning about video because I
Mhm.
realized what they meant was make the audio and the video more professional, to
Mhm.
make it look good. You want it to be really good out there.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done over the years. And also get more professional also in terms of things like, which I used to hate the word branding, but I
Mhm.
now realize that branding is an energetic message to the universe. I understand now. So I had to embrace, okay, I don't like this branding thing, but there's something in it that people have to be aware of.
Yeah.
Marketing, there's a set of skills in marketing which are earthly skills. So people need to, it's not just about trusting the universe. We're here as co-creators, so we need to learn and upgrade our own skill sets so that we can actually be a good vessel for spirit to go, hey, this person's on it now. For me, having 190,000 people on YouTube is great for the angels and guides. It's great. We've got a great reach. The message can get out there. I mean, great if I get 1 million, I get a little gold plaque then. We get 1 million.
Yeah. Guys, let's get him to 1 million.
Yeah, I've got a
Yeah.
silver plaque, which my kids are really impressed with somewhere,
I
somewhere
love
over
that.
there.
Well, it just goes to
Yeah.
show like all of your hard work, like all the meditations that you put out so much on YouTube and Insight Timer. Your meditations and transitions are amazing. Like I said, it was like one of the first things that I came across online back in 2012 when I went through a huge awakening. So, your longevity and the work that you do is just testament. Like, and that 190K is a byproduct of that, right? So,
Yeah, and that's in the last 8 years because I've been on the journey for over 30 years, but I really only started on this track
online. Yeah.
about eight years ago. So yeah, I'm really hoping in 30 years I'll get that million. It'd be nice to give my grandkids the little gold plaque. They kind of like that kind of. I
Yeah.
put my silver one in my guest loo, but
In the
I
guest
think
loo.
people look at it and
Probably
go,
put me in
"Oh,
the
it's
guest loo.
got a YouTube silver plaque."
Well, then what they'll be thinking at that point, they're just in the loo and they're like, oh, okay, what
Steve,
thoughts then
okay.
transpire from there? Well, if there's anywhere that you want someone to think about you, probably not in the toilet, but
No,
I don't
no.
know what the
I didn't want to
energetics
put
of
it too
that
much on
is.
display.
Yeah, exactly. And because I'm calling, so all of my guests, I'm calling this the Rebel Soul series because I believe that all of the clients that are ever drawn to me are rebel souls, right? That's kind of like we talk about branding, and that's very much like the epitome of my branding is the rebel soul.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you, what does being a rebel soul mean for you?
Well, as I mentioned, I was called the heretic in the basement. And for me, I like the word heretic. It's like going against the grain, going against the orthodoxy. Also, for me, it's kind of speaking the truth about what I see, even if like the most of the world go, we don't agree with you or we don't get that. I'm just kind of saying, hey, the thing about the Pope, for example, there's
Yeah.
millions going, oh, he was such a lovely guy. And I'm not saying, I'm just saying what I was saying. And and sometimes I get those reactions and it's fine.
Hmm.
But I am speaking about light and dark. And a lot of people don't like to hear about. They don't want to hear about the light and the unicorns and the rainbows. And I say, well, to really understand that light forces exist, you need to know about the dark forces. So that's my heresy, actually.
Hmm.
And also, I'm someone very aligned with the Jesus, the Christ message, but also very aligned with the kind of old religion, the shamanic and the old ways. And so I'm kind of bridging. So my kind of heresy is also I'm bridging things which were never bridged or
Hmm.
never allowed to be bridged.
Hmm.
I'm also in a male body, and a lot of my transmissions are bringing in the divine feminine goddess energy, which I resisted at the first. But then I'm like, hey, okay, if Isis wants to come through a male body, then who am I to say no?
Hmm.
So there are all these kind of weird things which I'm trying and connecting up. So that's my heresy. I'm a connector, a rainbow bridge, and also a speaker of things that sometimes people don't want to hear. But I don't want to, I'm not here to offend people, but just sometimes I need to say things.
Yeah.
And,
And that's the
you know,
rebel soul, right? It's like you go
yeah.
against the grain. You're not here to do what normal society tells you to do, and you're here to walk your own path.
And I think I speak to people that don't feel they fit in totally to the world or system.
That is,
The starseed thing is you don't feel the earth is completely home. Maybe your family doesn't feel like home. Maybe your job doesn't feel like home. Where do I belong? It's that kind of feeling of someone said to me once, we're in the club of what was it she say? We're in the tribe of those who don't belong. I
mm,
belong to the tribe of those who don't belong.
hmm.
Something like that. And I
Hmm.
think, yeah, I'm creating a tribe of those who don't belong.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of tribe of people who follow me, I think.
Beautiful. I love that. And then do you have any like final messages for my audience, or is there where can they find you? Do you have anything coming up that you want to let everyone know?
Uh, you can find me thesoulmatrix.com there.
Yeah.
Insight Timer, Steve Nobel 101. I'm on Telegram as Steve Nobel. I've got a channel. On my website, thesoulmatrix.com, you'll find all my links. I'm a social media tart. I've even started actually posting on a Red Note in China. And I
Oh,
find, yeah, there's a whole Chinese Facebook.
yeah.
And a Chinese client told me about it. So I've started posting on there. And within a week, I've got like 100 followers. And they're all like, oh, we love your posts. And um, I'm just finding out about China at the moment. I'm thinking, well, why not? Why not uplift the energy of China? It's a massive market, a massive energy. I'm
Love.
not thinking that anyone will come and jump on board, but I just wanted to shift the vibe and
Yeah.
give a new vibe into China, and
Love that.
China's shifting. I do feel that China is shifting. And even I think I think even Russia is shifting. There's a groundswell of starseeds in Russia. It's just the old systems are still in place. They'll break down
Very much
as
so.
these new systems are coming up. But I think Russia is just as America has obviously a load of, and Australia, a load of starseeds in there. But Russia, they're hidden, but they
Mm.
will come out. They will come out.
Mm.
Their voice will be heard eventually.
I love that. And I love that you've got this broad outlook around, what it looks like from a global component as well, with where our seeds are and what needs to shift and happen.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a global view. I do read the headlines just to see what's going on in the world, what's happening now. parts of Europe have been blackout. What's that all about? And I'm curious about a lot of the things that's going. I like to know what's going on in the world. I don't dive into fear of it. I
No.
just want to know what's happening in the world because my service is global. So
Yeah. And then you can tune into
yeah,
it and just, and then have your read on it, right?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, which is
Amazing.
yeah what I do. Yeah.
And is there anything coming up that, people can attend or join, that you've got any workshops, anything?
I do regular online webinars at least once a month on various subjects. I think the next one in May is Angels of Healing, which is a very intense one for 2 hours. It's
Mm.
clearing out womb, birth, early years, adolescence. It's actually very intense. It sounds lovely and light, but it's quite an intense 2 hours. So every month I do, you find details on my website and on YouTube, I've got a membership on YouTube, 5D Ascension School. People can join. There's two levels. One is I think 4.99 sterling, and one is 23.99. Depends where you want to go and what level. But there's benefit in both levels. So check that out on my YouTube channel, Steve Nobel.
Amazing. And for everyone out there, I'll put all of Steve's details and links in the show notes below, so you can just click on them very easily. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I've really loved this conversation. Anything
Yeah.
fun but goes deep, like that's so my vibe. So again, thank you so much. As I said, you've been a huge influence in my own personal journey, and one of the original catalysts for what's even possible. So again, thank you so much for joining
Our
us
pleasure.
and sharing with my
Thanks.
audience. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Gillian.
You are welcome.